So let's see. So we've had a lot of surprises here in this discussion series. Actually, opinions of songs have kind of changed over time, and I think you have a good example there.
Oh gosh, I hated Celebrate when it first came out. Like, the song for the fourth movie. I wanted a real song, and I didn't want this childish thing, but I've come around on it in other years, and now it's kind of a lot more fun. I think I've gotten over my need for emo seriousness all the time.
Yeah, I do have to give the Japanese movie 4 ending theme, which is "Please Let There Be Good Weather Tomorrow."
Yeah.
I have to give that a lot of credit. That is a decent song, and I think I like it better for stuff for there.
Movie, yeah.
But Celebrate is.
You can have a good time.
Yeah, it's not a badly written song or anything like that.
This is just tone switch.
So we were talking earlier about the use of English lyrics in Japanese music, and one of the ones I had sort of talked about how it can not always make it sound like a great thing, like a Lovely Boy from the Japanese version of movie 7, Destiny Deoxys. The English lyrics in there are very bright and cheerful, and thankfully clued me in on what the Japanese lyrics, and there's more to it than that.
Slightly more, yeah. It's not the deepest song in the world, but yeah, if you only know the English side, you're like, this is really fluffy and doesn't make a lot of sense. Yeah.
There are Japanese songs that do English, I think, very well. Like Crystal K1 is a good one, even though it's only like 1 or 2 lines in there. It uses it quite well. I'm trying to think of another good. I had another one in my head, and it has slipped my mind.
Well.
But, we throw sayonara or au revoir in songs, and maybe that doesn't sound the best. Maybe you flip it around that way, and you kind of realize things. We also have some interesting production details that we've learned through our research and doing this series. So, like, I was going back to the first movie, We're a Miracle. So this was a pretty cool find that I managed to track down. It turns out it was mastered only a few weeks before the movie came out. So the way we figured this out is actually someone in the Los Angeles area did some, not really dumpster diving, but basically there was a storage locker somewhere there that lapsed. And in there were a bunch of mastering CDs for I'm not sure all went in there, but a bunch of Christina Aguilera songs. And one of those is Miracle. It just says Miracle on there, but it says Pokemon in the top right. And it's only like mid-October 1999, so very short timeline there, and that was really interesting. I actually managed to snag that one off of eBay and do a quick unboxing. Nothing really special on there, it's just the song by itself.
But a neat little piece of like music history.
I like I said, so. And you did the Japanese research. What do you have to? You have to do some pretty tough stuff for that.
Well, if my college professors could see me now, it's just very hard to cite your sources when you struggle to read. So, I've learned so much about a wide variety of bands, and that some that I listened to while I was living over there, and some that I learned for the first time, and it was sometimes hard to parse out like what's real facts and what's somebody's fanfic. But yeah, it's so hard to think of the fact that we live in such a global world now, where I feel like the later movies going forward, there's so much English resources about bands and things that are living in Japan and even mostly performing in Japan. They still have an audience over here, whereas a lot of the earlier stuff, especially Kobayashi Sachiko, as big of a star as she is, not a lot of young people listen to Enka, so it was harder to find information on her. And Amuro Namie is huge, but some of the smaller bands less so. So it's kind of interesting to watch the times change and more people kind of crossing the language barrier and to be able to give this information to us. That's kind of been interesting to observe over time.
Yeah, so I kind of, like I said, I've been able to track down some of the folks, do interviews on a number of the themes, so very lucky there on my end. I think a sigh of relief when we did movie 10 on the Japanese side. You just had to research Sarah Brightman. that was a lot, made things a lot easier.
I can read again.
I mean, there were some other ones, like movie 8 on the Japanese side, they have, Puffy Amiyumi, so that's the one
that's true.
Of all the acts, that's probably, not counting Sarah Brightman, that's of all the Japanese acts, that's probably one of the ones that Americans are most familiar with. And one of the fun things we get to do, actually, is we get to talk about the other works of the the Japanese and English stuff, actually.
Yeah, because some of the English artists have still active music careers, even if they're not huge household names.
Yeah, I'm just curious, have any of you looked up other music from various artists after hearing them do a theme song for an anime or something like that? You just want a quick show of hands here? Yeah, I kind of figured that was something like that. Well, here's a few interesting ones. Together with the Wind, the Japanese ending song for the first movie, that was written by Hirokazu Hip Tanaka, who, prior to moving over to Creatures Inc., actually worked for Nintendo doing game music for a number of years. And one of the series he worked on there was the Mother or Earthbound series. Yeah, that probably actually explains some various things about some of the early Japanese Pokemon music. But we noticed, actually, if you've played either of the Earthbound or Mother games, there's a thing in there, there's something called 8 Melodies. It's a different song, but we noticed that Together with the Wind, there's that passage, the dee 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 dee, is actually almost kind of structured in a very similar way, and it was kind of interesting to make that little parallel between their work. Some other things we noticed, let's see, we talk about remixes when we can find those. So for the second movie, there's actually for the Power of One, there's actually a 2 vinyl record LP set of 8 total remixes. And there's the Tommy Musto remix, which is actually done in sort of a retro disco style. Obviously, he's kind of celebrating Donna Summer's career there.
So if you ever want to have an extremely specific themed rave, that's a CD to pick up.
Yeah, there's a CD with 4 of the remixes, and there's the 2 LP set with all 8 remixes. So that was kind of a fun little discovery. And sometimes we just get some interesting off-genre stuff. Like in our European discussion, we had the Celtic remix of the Route 1 theme.
Has anyone heard that?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the name of that album again? Because everyone in the world needs to hear it.
So yeah, I just found out some more. We have a listener who listens to our series from Germany, or one of the German-speaking countries anyway, and that person was able to get me some additional information. So there's a CD called Gotta Catch the Sound. Even though it's from Germany, it's actually got an English title on there. And it's a combination soundtrack of Pokemon Snap and Pokemon Stadium. But in addition to that, there are 4 remixes. There are 2 from Stadium and 2 from Snap. And I believe one of the track we're talking about right here is called On My Way, the Celtic remix. That was given away. The CD is actually fairly common apparently in Germany because it was given away as a promo for the German equivalent of Nintendo Power magazine back in the day, and it might have been sold through retail a little bit too. But it's got that Celtic Route 1 theme. It uses the version from Stadium, and
it sounds like Red is tripping through the Shire. It's amazing. Who even thought that was a musical choice? I'm still in. I can't believe it. No, go look that up.
Yeah, it is. It's an interesting CD. It apparently, I guess in Germany, if you're ever in there, it's not too hard to find on there, but I did manage to pick a copy off of eBay, and that's sort of where we got that from. But yeah, we found all sorts of different genre types. Of course, obviously, you go back to the second movie, we have Pokemon from Weird Al and that kind of thing. So that's one thing I really like about Pokemon is that, and video game music or anime music in general, is that you can go in a lot of different places that might not be so common on, say, the pop charts. Mm-hmm. All right, yeah, so we have a few more observations, some other things here.
And then we'll let you talk.
Yeah, enough talking about our series here. It's an advertisement for us, sorry about that. But we often ask the question, would it be possible for them to have translated the Japanese song to English and used it that way? And it
happened once, kinda.
Kinda, yeah. Make-A-Wish from A Small Thing is not really the same song. It uses the same melody. One thing we did notice, though, is that it switches over in the credits to the Japanese version when the Japanese part of the credits comes up in movie 6, which is a really neat touch.
Yeah.
Although there is apparently, I've heard, there is a full-on English version of Make-A-Wish that has all the English lyrics.
Yeah, I think you can even find those lyrics somewhere, but no one's ever found the full track. So.
Yeah, I think they used it at some of the 10th anniversary celebrations.
Oh, okay.
But as far as actually translating, it can be really difficult. We often come to the conclusion that maybe it's technically possible, but the meter difference is Japanese music doesn't rhyme as much as English music.
It can. It's kind of one of those things where different countries, the way they perceive rhyming can sometimes be different. French is another one of those languages. And in some Japanese songs, they rhyme in the way an English song would rhyme, whereas the last couple syllables. And sometimes Japanese has a different sort of rhythm to it, and it can make it a little harder to get a translation of meaning, a translation of that rhythm, of the feeling of it. There are people on YouTube who do it extremely well, but it's definitely a skill that I don't have, and I don't think everyone does.
Yeah, so usually we end up with the decision that it might not
have been worth the effort.
Yeah, especially when you consider, it can be really difficult to license stuff across boundaries and things like that in the music world. It's unfortunately, that's one of the reasons, like if you go on iTunes or Spotify or something like that, you don't see...
Always get all the stuff
Yeah,
you
kind of got a double problem there because it's a foreign act and it's also a licensed song in some way, shape, or form. So that can make it really difficult. That's kind of part of the reason why you don't have... some of the Pokemon stuff, despite the fact like the first movie pop soundtrack sold like 2 million copies in the U.S., but like one service has it, and even then, like not every track. Mm-hmm. And of course, since we have different backgrounds, just in general, and especially Anne being in Japan for a year or two, we kind of get different perspectives on different songs.
Yeah.
We've kind of talked about how, if you only understand the English parts of the song, that can kind of give you maybe the wrong impression of something like that.
And if you really love the band, that can change your opinion of a mediocre song into an amazing song. So, but it's been interesting to come at this for the show and have such differing opinions sometimes, and to be able to appreciate what the other person likes about it.
And sometimes when we get two different songs there, what we do find that even if we prefer one over the other, they oftentimes both have at least some value.
Yeah.
So going back to the 11th Pokemon movie, that's the Giratina and Shaman movie. On the Japanese side, you have One by Crystal K, and then on the English side, you have This Is a Beautiful World. I prefer One. But we kind of realized that One has more of an airy flying quality, whereas This Is a Beautiful World is more down to earth, which in hindsight is actually kind of appropriate for Shaman, which has a sky form and a land form.
Yeah.
So that
little things like that, it's like they couldn't possibly have coordinated that,
right.
But it works.
And of course, like I said, we get a bunch of different genres in there, everything from enka, jazz fusion, polka, a cappella. There's a really great little a cappella piece, at least in the Japanese score of Movie 9. I had mentioned I'm a big a cappella fan, growing up with the Nylons and Rockapella, and so that was a nice one for me. And the other thing we like to do is we like to play What If sometimes. We like to pick a different song by the artist or something like that. I think our biggest one so far is Movie 2 on the Japanese side.
Mina ga Itakura should have been the ending theme.
Yeah, all due respect to...
Toi Moi is beautiful too, but no!
Yeah, so that was kind of an interesting little discussion there.
Keep watching for more from this interview.